Well, Brad, it's another 2020 story for you. So the story is three Marine vets charged after forming anti-BLM death squad and smuggling illegal weapons, feds say. That's up on Connecting Vets. So the story is that three former Marines, they got arrested back in October on conspiracy to unlawfully manufacture, possess, and distribute illegal weapons and ammunition and suppressors. Then the indictment just came out. It was unsealed with a lot more information about these guys, also naming a fourth person. So the ones that were initially arrested, Liam Collins, Paul Kriesuk, Jordan Duncan, and then the fourth guy is Justin Hermanson. So Collins, Duncan, and Hermanson are all former Marines. Kriesuk, he is a porn star, and his IMDb list has many titles to his credit, doing a lot of gonzo porn. So it's an interesting crew they got going, and together they formed up a white supremacist, in quotes, death squad, in addition to their illegal weapons manufacturing. And they coordinated stuff on a what's now a defunct neo-Nazi message board. They're trying to create a modern day Waffen SS.
Okay. Porn star joins a white supremacy group. Was he also a veteran as well? He's a Marine?
No, not that I can
see.
see.
So thank God. All right, so porn star joins white supremacy group with some other veterans, and they were trying to create a modern day World War II-esque Nazi Waffen group. How far did they get? How far did this plot actually go? I mean, there's a difference between me and my buddies, who hasn't considered starting an online hate group on a message board? I mean, come on, everybody's been there. But how far did this actually get?
Pretty far, actually. Their goal was to actually deconstruct the system. So these guys would qualify as accelerationists. They said straight up that what they were doing was trying to usher in the balkanization of America, and fight a civil war in America's streets, similar to what we've seen in the Middle East in recent years. One of them even wrote in this chat, this will be a ground war very reminiscent of Iraq, as we will essentially be facing an insurgent force made up of criminals and gang members. So they had manufactured these illegal weapons. They had formed up their group. They would spend time together. They'd go hiking together. They planned on buying land together. They would get together to do live fire training sessions and make like little white supremacy videos. And then the next step, they were actually doing surveillance on Black Lives Matter in Boise, Idaho. So they were driving their cars around BLM rallies, parking, watching them, exchanging text messages, talking about how they would attack BLM. So they came pretty close, it seems, to actually waging an attack.
So on a serious note, we had talked about this before, you and I. We had talked about QAnon. And I'll make this very clear. There is no connection that we know of right now between QAnon and these guys. But I think the similarity is that in our previous discussions, we had talked about QAnon members taking on the role of the accelerationist when things don't work the way that the Q Post had said they would. Maybe the interpretation would be, oh, it's not the government's not supposed to fall. Just the conspiracy isn't just supposed to occur and the downfall of bad guy. I have to go be part of the movement towards destroying the system that is in place. How concerning was this story to you when you read it?
It was pretty surprising, actually, because a few smaller news outlets had reported on this, but I don't think they really picked up the full scope of it from the indictment, that these guys had actually been training and planning and gathering together to create essentially a terror network, and were preparing to launch attacks and wage a guerrilla war. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that this had not been more widely reported.
I find that when you get a report of one thing, there's usually something very similar to it happening at least 2 or 3 more places. We caught this group. Do you think that this is something we're going to see a lot more of? Because I mean, I isn't this like the 3rd or 4th?
Right. Remember the group that was going to assassinate, what was it, the governor of Michigan?
I think so. Or
Yeah.
kidnapper.
And then it came out like just in the last week, their alternate plan was to take over the state capitol building and do like ISIS, like executing hostages every hour on the hour if their demands aren't met. Like, yeah, it's scary, man. The only good thing we can say is like these groups are wildly incompetent. They do all kinds of dumb stuff that's like, well, hey, it's like I'm not gonna like go there because I'm not irresponsible, but there's part of you that wants to like poke the guy in the chest, like, hey man, this isn't how you run a criminal conspiracy. Like you need some help here. And it's just thankfully for America, these guys are fairly incompetent, and they make a lot of mistakes and the feds catch them.
Are we at all concerned, or should we be at all concerned at the number of veterans that are finding? So I'm always kind of reluctant to say veterans are being targeted because part of the problem is there's so many veterans now. I'd love to see a number that shows how many, well, what population of the country is now a veteran. We've had almost 20 years worth of wars. Thousands and thousands of people have come through the world of the military and every branch and made its way out, whether you went out with the dishonorable, honorable, or even some folks have gone to basic training, got hurt, and they're out. Is there reason to be concerned about the number of veterans that we find in these groups, or is it just population numbers?
No, I mean, there is cause for concern. And I'll read you a quote from the indictment where Collins said, everyone in the group is going to be required to have served in a nation's military, whether US, UK, or Poland. It's a goal for the long term. I'll be in the USMC for 4 years while my comrades work on the group's physical formation. It will take years to gather all the experience and intelligence that we need to utilize, but that's what makes it fun. It takes a man's willpower and heart to make a commitment like this. So they put a premium on military training and were even joining the military to receive military training for their, race war or ethno state or whatever the hell they perceive this war being about.
So this is very real. This is a very real threat. This is exactly what we were talking about in connection, in reference to Q, again, not Q related, but the idea that the system needs to be completely dismantled, right. Not new. That concept has been around forever, but what we're seeing is an increase, a value placed on military experience. So folks, if you're a veteran out there, just, be cautious about who your friends are. And if you do get invited to a meeting and it happens to be a revolutionary ordeal where it's like, hey, let's overthrow the government, you might want to set that one out, folks. I'm encouraging you to sit out the overthrow of the current government. Jack, do you have any other last words of wisdom for our folks who might be considering joining extremist groups?
Man, I guess the only thing I would say on that is, a lot of us look at it like, what kind of person joins a white supremacist group? You'd have to be a bad person. Like, understand that like a lot of these groups are self-proselytizing. They're always recruiting all the time. And that the people who do that, oftentimes they're very charismatic. So it won't necessarily, the way these white supremacist groups will recruit initially, it's not going to come at you like, hey man, the purity of the white race, we need to go kill all the black people and create an ethno state. Like, they're not going to come at you like that. They're going to come at you like, I don't think you should be ashamed of being white. I think it's okay. We like you just the way you are. And these other groups over here, these social justice people, they're never going to be happy with you. They're never going to like you because you're a white male. But we like you. Like, you can come hang out with us. So like the recruitment pitch is going to come at young soldiers, young veterans, in a different way, in a different manner. And it's just something to keep in mind, and I guess have your radar up. And I don't know who needs to hear this or who it may reach, but I hope it hits somebody and lands on target. That's how they're going to come at you initially, and then they're going to ease you right in to the Holocaust Part 2. So have your radar up when it comes to these things.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that every time we've talked about this, some of the hate mail that I get, some of the comments I get down below, by the way, leave your comments down below if you're on YouTube. It has pointed to, well, what about them? You know, yes, white supremacy, bad, but what about BLM? Why don't you, Rod Rodriguez, why don't you, Connecting Vets, talk about how bad that organization be? They're communists, they're black supremacists, they're this and that. I think that's a slippery slope. I think that's a fallacy in the argument to say, well, one thing is bad, but also they're bad. They can both have elements. You can have white supremacy be bad, elements of BLM be bad, but it doesn't take away from how shitty white supremacy is and how shitty it is to be a death squad.
It's a culture of but. People say but. It's whataboutism. It is a fallacy, and any sort of idea, any sort of conversation can instantly be derailed by saying but. And just like you said, I mean, there can be both arguments can be bad. That can be true at the same time. And when people make that but whataboutism type argument, it's kind of a bad faith argument, because what they're really trying to do is shut down your speech. They don't like what you're saying, so they're saying, hey, you need to shut up because these guys over here are bad. And I hear that not just in the context of this conversation, but all sorts of political conversations. And I'm always a bit bewildered by it when people come to me and say, but it's like, hey, like, I'm not like Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal guy. You want to make those comparisons, okay, but like it's not really. It's apropos to nothing from my perspective. Like I don't support that other stuff you're talking about, never have. So why are we even having this conversation right now? And I don't think it's outside our wheelhouse to say, hey, white supremacy and domestic terrorism is bad. And you can make but arguments all day, but it's still bad.
I have to be concerned about anybody that will but me when I say white supremacy or death squads are bad. The other part to that, of course, is folks will argue about the fact that, well, yes, death squads, but BLM, but BLM, they're violent, they're bad. How come we don't talk about them? And I'm like, well, because we're talking about this news article. I think that's important for us to recognize, is that we're not saying all Marine veterans are white supremacists. We're not saying that everybody's bad when we talk about these particular news articles.
Look, man, when BLM plans a domestic terrorist attack and they plan an assassination or a kidnapping or a hostage crisis or something, or a bombing, I will cover it. Especially, specifically as it relates to veterans, because that is my wheelhouse and that's what we cover at Connecting Vets. If BLM or some group like that, a group of veterans there, plans an attack like this, hell yeah, I'll cover it. We're obligated to cover it, and we would cover it.
And you see, folks, this was me addressing your concerns, because I've had a lot of you guys email me and send me messages, and they're like, you don't talk about this, you don't talk about. Well, I want to bring up your concerns, even if I don't necessarily agree with them, but I will bring them up.
Hey man, my tip line is open. You got a story about veterans and BLM plotting a terror attack, let me know, man.
And on that note, where can people find you, Mr. Murphy?
Hey, if you want to find the tip line, you send me an email. It's jack@connectingvets.com. Don't send me your conspiracy theories, please. But if you have actual information that you know firsthand, shoot it over. I'll take a look at it. And then you find me on Twitter at Jack Murphy RGR.
All right, folks, that was Jack Murphy. Send him a message. for sure send him all your conspiracy theories. He wants to hear all of it. I know
They
he's got
already
a
do.
dozen.
They already do.
Jack, you have to understand Sasquatch, aliens, Illuminati.
You know, actually, those ones aren't so bad. Like, those are kind of harmless compared to the sorts of conspiracies we have going around nowadays.
Oh, they get gross. And every single one of them has to jump into like something to do with Satan, kids, and it's always bad. No matter how you can start with Sasquatch and end with Epstein. And we're going to end with that, folks. Next up, the amazing Abby Bennett. She's going to talk to you a little bit about what's going on Capitol Hill. Folks, this is the part where too many of you guys tune out. I'm tired of it. Guys, what's happening on Capitol Hill has everything to do with you, so make sure you stay tuned.